Right. Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take a top stories in crypto and bring out a bite-sized pieces. Today, just as the thumbnail suggests, there is a 30% tax coming, and it looks like crypto is going to be legalized in India. What does that mean for the rest of the world? So we're going to take a look at that story. First, of course, we'll take a look at the market cap, see exactly what's going on. Also take a look at that story about crypto being legalized in India with 30% tax, which is downright ridiculous. And the way they're talking about it, it's not just capital gains tax, it is transactional tax, which is insane. Also, take a look at a regulation victory from the American Competes Bill update. And then lastly, we'll take a look at, we did a Voyager, the CEO, Steve Ehrlich, stopped by yesterday, and we did a quick little interview, and we're going to talk everything about the token burn, loyalty program, debit card, and stock trading. And then lastly, we'll do a Q&A. Hold your questions till the end. So before I get started, this is going to be a little bit different because I've never done it this way. We did a pre-recorded session with Steve, and I'm going to put that into here after we do the news stories. And so what I'm going to do, the live chat is available. You can ask any questions and go through it. But I'm going to stop it along the way and just kind of put in some more things that I've learned behind the scenes when it is needed. So we'll go through all those things. But first, again, let's take a look at what is going on into the market. So today it is the 1st, February 1st, looking pretty good. And we've got, let me blow this up so you can see a little better. A pretty good day, $1.85 billion, or actually $1,850 billion, which is not too bad. I'll take those little victories as they come about. So Ethereum's up almost 10%, 13% for the week. That's pretty great, almost $2,800. Everything's up. I think there was an issue yesterday with, where'd it go? With Luna, some type of hack that was on the ecosystem, not Luna itself, but one of its projects. So that took a little bit of a tumble. There it is, Terra. But I mean, look, today it's down 21% for the week, but 12% for 24 hours. So again, another opportunity there to buy the dip, which I've been doing. I took a step back, but I've been doing it more and more as time has gone on because I think the markets are starting to stabilize a little bit. Now, does that mean that anything couldn't crash tomorrow? Sure, could crash to zero. I have no idea. Crypto's crazy. But in the long run, that's what really counts. 10% for Cosmos, 5%. So everything's looking pretty good. Again, market cap's great. Also, if we take a look at the S&P 500 yesterday, was a pretty monstrous day. This is a 5-day look of the S&P. I know people are like, why do you show this stuff? It's because we're correlated. And we're becoming more and more correlated, especially more so with the NASDAQ. Look at that. NASDAQ had a pretty great day. It's gone up. So I think some of the investors and institutions and hedge funds have shaken off their fears of the things that are going on with Jerome Powell and raising rates and all those things. But again, over the last, yesterday, because markets haven't opened up, it's 9 a.m. here in Puerto Rico. It means 8 o'clock Eastern time. The markets don't open for another hour and a half. But over the last 5 days, looking pretty good. A month, a little bit worse. But I mean, look at this trajectory. This thing on 6 months. I mean, it looked pretty bleak there for a bit. Everybody was freaking out about this whole Jerome Powell thing. And we had talked about this on DCA, and James and Ben had said that the markets don't like ambiguity or things that are just kind of up there in the air, because now Jerome said, well, we'll look at it in March. But I'm like, even if he would have raised rates, he had already talked about raising rates again, more times throughout the year. So isn't that just more volatility anyhow? I mean, it's going to be volatile. So this, I believe, is when millionaires are made, when everything goes down to the pits and everybody's super scared. Not investment advice, just investment opinion. So let's break into today's top story. Crypto's legal in India with a 30% tax. And this is what we got. When I saw this, I'm like, this is great because, I mean, there's a couple of billion people in India. I think 1-point-something billion, somewhere around there. So if you can hit a pretty big, massive amount of people to get crypto legalized, that's good. The problem is, and beforehand, they were talking about, banning crypto, which I don't know how they could do it, but they did it for quite some time. That's why with ZeroX, we couldn't do anything in the exchange. But they came out and said, yes, we're going to do that. But guess what? 30% tax. So here's what we got. Here at. So this is what it says. Income from the transfer. I want to specify that very clearly. Income from the transfer of any virtual assets will be taxed at 30%. The nation's finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, said Tuesday. She proposed also a 1% tax deduction at source on payments made related to purchase of virtual assets. So before I go on, I have to make a distinction here. So when it talks about a transfer of any virtual assets, here in America or most places, if you transfer your crypto, let's say you have one Bitcoin on Binance or Voyager or Coinbase, whatever else, if you transfer one Bitcoin from that wallet to a hosted wallet on an exchange to your cold storage, that's not a taxable event if you transfer it around. So the only time that you get taxed or have any kind of like losses is when you sell it. You sell your crypto. Let's say you bought Bitcoin at 20,000, you sell it at 40,000. Now you have a capital gains of $20,000. Great. That means it's a capital gains tax, depending on short or long term, whatever else, right? Depending on if it's a year or less. Now, if you bought Bitcoin at 20,000 and it goes down to 10,000, you sell it at 10,000, you have a loss of $10,000. Okay, so there's a big distinction between that. Also, if you pay for goods or services with crypto, like you meet someone who's here to do construction. Hey, I'm going to charge you half a Bitcoin. Here's half a Bitcoin. You get charged capital gains tax because you're paying for goods and services. But when you transfer anything, just moving it around, there is no taxes whatsoever. So for here, when they're talking about this, where it says income from the transfer of any virtual assets, we tax 30%, that's dicey. And that's where there needs to be a little bit of clarity. So also, the finance minister, Nirmala, said no deduction in respect of any expenditure or allowance shall be allowed while computing such income except cost of acquisition. Furthermore, loss from transfer of digital assets cannot be set off against any other income. Meaning, if you transferred Ethereum, and for some reason it gets lost in the sauce and just doesn't go through, or you fat finger yourself and you send Ethereum to a Bitcoin wallet address, they're like, hey, that's on you. And that you cannot set that off, or you cannot claim losses against that. So the whole thing of like, hey, I lost all my crypto in a boating accident will not apply. You will still have to pay taxes. I think the reason it all comes down to this is, why are things moving so fast? It's because there's so much money being made. Binance owned WazirX, that is the crypto exchange in India, said last month that yearly trading volume on its platform exceeded 43 billion in 2021. That's a 1,735% growth from 2020. So that's what we have as far as taxes. It's like taking two steps forward. Hey, they didn't ban it. I don't know, how they could really do that, but there it is. But they are going to talk about 30% tax. So the real question is, if they're going to tax it, then now it becomes legal. So now, is it legal tender? How are they defining that? Is it a currency? Is it legal tender? Is it a commodity? Is it a security? No answers there. So that's what we have. Let me know what you think about that in the comments section. Let's move on to our next piece. Hey, a little victory. And this was a story that we had covered called America Competes. And I will link that at the very end. It's the same thing that actually Charles Hoskinson, lead over there at ADA and IOHK, talks about American Competes Act. And I had said that crypto can be cut off if this actually goes through. And the reason it could is because it was a bill that was put forth by J.A. Himes, or Jim Himes, who was a Connecticut congressman. And in that language, he had slipped it in. And he said, look, if this goes through, we're going to give unilateral support to the Treasury, especially the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, where she could essentially shut down all transactions of any exchanges that she wants to based on this bill. So Jerry Brito, that's how you say his name, he is the executive director of Coin Center, DC-based crypto think tank, and he's got his ear to the ground of everything that's going on over there. And he says, I'm happy to report that Jim Himes has listened to our voices. So thanks, everybody, for reaching out to your congressman, senator, and telling them we don't want this. And it looks like the notice and comment protections in the Competes Act related to special measures will be retained. This is a manager's amendment that will be considered later this week. So what they had done is they had struck out the ability for it not to be unilateral. And now it's going to be, if you want to do those types of things, it has to go through committees, it has to go through hearings. You can't just be just one person that shuts everything down. So that to me is a victory. I know you can read that. I linked this in the description for the Twitter account. You can see how people are like, well, it's not a big victory. Look, I'll take anything I can get right now. So I'm pretty happy about that. That's great. That means that the things that we do actually work. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And let's move on to Voyager CEO interview. So this is going to be a little bit different, like I said. So we did, first of all, there was this great video yesterday where you see they're rolling out the debit card right now for Voyager, which is great. If you're a Voyager user, fantastic. I'm sure you're pretty happy. And I'm just going to tell you right now, this interview is roughly 28 minutes. So if that's all, if Voyager doesn't concern you, then thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. Adios. And that's it for today. But if you want to stick around for the Voyager thing, this is what's going on. So first of all, the debit card got rolled out to specific people, and it's being rolled out to even more. Steve's going to talk more about this. This is a video I found yesterday about and what the debit card allows you to do is to spend your crypto. I think what's great about this is that if you can have direct deposits from your work, which they're working on right now, you can direct deposit that into dollars or USDC. You can gain 9, 10, 11%, depending on what the APY is based on your tier. And then you can go around and spend it just like what's being done right here, where this lady here goes to Papa John's, buys a pizza. That's very symbolic as far as like the symbolic buying 2 pizzas with 10,000 Bitcoin. Well, she's just using her crypto to buy that with her debit card. And I think and it works out, no problems, issues, goes through quickly, easy enough, and that's it. So I was like, well, that's pretty good. So now what I want to do is I want to get into the actual interview right now. So usually we do this a little bit differently, but I'm going to stop the screen real quick, and I'm going to share this so you can actually hear the audio. So let me do this real quick. Brave tab, Voyager. And there we are. So we're going to talk about everything about the burning mechanism, the loyalty program, the opening back up of the token swap, and all the different things. But you're going to see why I didn't go into detail about every little thing, because this stuff's already been answered. And I'm going to show you where to get the information. So let's jump right in. I will stop it when I'm going to just monitor the comments and just see if we've got some big questions as they come through. So this is actually, just so you know, let me show you. Here is the questions that we went through. And we started off with this. The first question I have for Steve was, how many times has Voyager been hacked? And how many total cryptos are on the platform versus how many can take off? And I wanted to start this way because we get deeper questions and tougher questions for Steve to answer. Next question is this: how many developers have you added on the team? Because it doesn't matter how many people you've done, how many promises you make, you have to add to the team, and you have to actually make this thing work. And the only way to make this thing work is to get more developers. So tell me, how many developers have you actually started off with? Then we get into the tougher questions. This new Voyager loyalty program, what we have now, and the LGO, Ethos, BQX token swap, plus burn and voting. Because if we keep adding in Voyager tokens forever, that is another inflation. We need a deflationary measure, and I had to press him on this pretty tough for him to get an answer. Also, we talked about the September integration for stocks. You're going to actually be able to, just like in Robinhood, you're actually be able to buy stocks in September on Voyager. And how does it all work? And then also the integration with lottery.com. And then we finished up with 2 questions, which was I wanted to ask him his thoughts on the SEC shutdown of Coinbase's yield program, because that is directly responsible for what Steve does over there at Voyager and their yield program, what that means, and also the scrutiny towards Celsius, because that's one of their partners. And then I asked him a deep question, which was, I said, hey, remember in 2020 when he said you're hoping it's not a niche market? How do you see it now? And then all this talk about tidal wave of institutions, because you are right directly in line with those guys. What do you see as far as institutions coming? Are they coming like everybody says, or is that just hope and hype and pipe dream? which was actually this answer I thought it was. So let's get to it. And here is the first part. Let me play this. So, all right, everybody, as promised, I've got questions. I've only got one guy's got answers, and that's Steve Ehrlich, CEO of Voyager. Steve, thanks for coming back to the show. It's been quite some time.
It's been a while. Thanks for having me again. I like the new background that you have. It's a little different from the last time I was on. Looks a lot sunnier today than from last time I was there.
Well, it's not. It's not as beautiful and icy as New York, but I'll take it. So here's what we got. So yeah. So let's jump right in. So just what we were talking about, there's a bunch of questions that are out there. And I actually put this out in a tweet. This was on January 15th when I messaged you and said, hey, come back on the show and we'll talk about some things. Here's the things that I got. This is like from Tim. And he says, hey, don't let Steve get away with 4 to 6 week time targets. Ask the hard questions. Why do they hold off on deliverables that were ready in November, like dark mode, debit delay? Where's the completely revamped Voyager loyalty program in 2022? When's it coming? Eric says, can't wait for this. Don't throw any softballs. Hold some feet to the fire and get some answers. I mean, it's been a year. The 4, 6, 8 week timeframes are old news. We as investors want more tangibles. There was other questions about, can we open up the token swap? Can we actually do what's going on with the actual burn? And for this, this was a while ago when I posted this. And actually, if you want answers to those questions, in all honesty, just go watch DJ Crypto, Buy the Dip, Sell the Tip. And he asked Steve in an hour-long format those same questions. And I will just go through it like just really quick. The debit card, I know it's coming. You guys just did a transaction and you guys have been testing it now from like a group of people. I know you're looking to roll it out to a larger group, but it sounds like it's almost there and you're getting ready to really deploy later on, right or wrong?
Yeah, go look. Give or take 15, 20 minutes ago, we put all the testing was done with test cards and to a corporate account. But our very first transaction was done by our product manager running the project. And, she put the video out about 15, 20 minutes ago of the very first transaction done with the debit card. So really exciting for us. It'll start rolling out in the next few weeks to our employees, and then a smaller group of VIPs and a test group, and it'll keep rolling. As we keep, we're not going to drop all few 100,000 out at the same time. That'd be silly. We'll keep rolling it out in waves and seeing if there's, every technology has bugs. So we're trying to make sure we find all the bugs before it gets, way bigger.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, I see the rug pulls and the different problems with DeFi right now. I'm okay with waiting a little bit of time. I mean, but it is what it is. So also, the same questions were asked about when New York, don't hold your breath. When Europe, that's coming on the pipeline, I'm guessing this year. South America, it's not in your roadmap. NASDAQ is coming through. Stocks are coming through. And we even talked about that. And we're gonna answer that specific question in a little bit. But let's just jump into, I think, some of the big questions outside of that, because I really want to drill down into what's going on. So first, let's just give everybody like an overview real quick about the positivity of things that are going on. Then we'll get into the kind of tougher questions, okay? So first of all, how many times has Voyager been hacked? How many total cryptos on the platform versus how many we can actually take off? So let's just start there.
Yeah, so guiding everything that we're going to talk about is when I was on with you probably 6-9 months ago, we had set the priorities of everything to scale the system, right? Like you held our feet to the fire. You personally did, because I remember answering the question with you. Personally held my feet to the fire on scaling the platform. And that was priority number one for all of 2021. And you can't name another retail brokerage that added 1 million funded accounts just in the US. Maybe you'll throw Coinbase or crypto.com, but we're third behind them. So 1 million funded accounts, we scaled the platform. That was priority number one. And things changed because that was our goal. And we had to do that before we could add any product. So to answer your question, knock on wood, no hacking. We believe the way we actually have the custody of the coins. We're now up to like 7 or 8 custodians. So nothing's ever in one place. And obviously because of all the various coins we have, which are over 75 right now, with some announcements to come this week. Our goal is to at least make that 100 by the end of February.
Wow.
So we said scaling 2021, product 2022, and that's what we're shooting for and doing. So, so knock on wood, we think the way we do the custody and move it and use all the different agents we do is a very secure manner on how we manage customer accounts.
Gotcha. Well, it's good that you get them all in different custody wallets. We don't want to see that. But then, so you got around 75 that we can get into. But then as far as like taking off, I want to say 40.
35 to 40, 35 to 40. And priority for us to make more withdrawal, working first on anything that's ERC 20 to make sure we can get it off. But just so everyone understands, part of the rationale in, the movement of coins is as much related to the AML that you have to do. You have to have process. You have to see where the wallets or coins are being sent to. You have to check that. That's a Patriot Act rule. So if we're not comfortable in having that, and there's 3 or 4 parties out there that independently do that, between Chain Analysis, between Elliptic, between CipherTrace, we integrate all those to make sure that we could analyze where coins are going to abide by the Patriot Act, because no one in Voyager really looks good in an orange jumpsuit. So we're making sure we abide by all the rules. But we're adding; it's a priority for us to do that too, as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then so people are going to say, okay, well, you can only do half. So what is Steve and the team doing? So that brings me to my next question, because to get this to actually happen, you need developers. And developers are in short supply. And I've been talking to different projects. They won't even give me access to their developers because they don't want them poached. And I'm like, are they that big of a deal? He was like, you have no idea how big a great developer is. So that leads me to the next question. To get all these different cryptos, how many developers have you added on the team? And try to be specific as you possibly can, because you've got on-chain developers, you've got front stack, full stack, and then behind the scene, whatever. So let me know.
Yeah. Overall, we started last year with something like 30 employees, probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 developers. And that's all, that's across the gamut. Yeah. We now have 275 people and we outsource, and we have third-party consultants as well. So with the third-party consultants that we use, we're probably over 100 developers now, which covers everything, which covers the blockchain, which covers the back end, because the system isn't one piece. It's a trading system. It's an OMS system. It's a books and record system. It's a pricing engine system. There's the blockchain part of it. There's so many different components, and we're over 100 developers now.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. I don't know how you did that miracle, because they're like gold apparently these days. All right. So that leads me to my next one. Let's get into some tougher ones, this is pretty much already answered over on DJ. Great channel over there. Check it out. But the question then we have this new Voyager loyalty program, what we have now and where are we going? And I want to ask you some very specific questions. So if we take a look here at the loyalty program itself. So here, when I first got into it, that was the circulating supply was around 222 million for VGX holders. And now you have 33 million for LGO holders, because you guys did an integration, as you guys merged together with LGO, so you can actually get into Europe, as I understand it. So now they got 222 plus 33. And there's a growth pool. We're going to add in 40 million in year 1 for Voyager tokens, 20 million in year 2, 10 million years 3 to 8. And that comes down to the LGO token, which is another one that you guys did here. Yep. But the question I have is, with all these different tokens that are coming in, there's 2 things. First of all, is when is there going to be a burn? Because it'd be nice to have a little deflationary aspect.
Yep.
And then the next question we'll get into is about that swap, because I keep getting that question. So let's go with the first one first. The burn. Is there any plans for the token? Up and up.
Yeah, the burn will happen. The development team, as I just said to you, we went from 8 to over 100. That's one of the departments they're working on. So yes, that's still planned. for us to do that, in 2022 here. I would say that, yeah, the supply has gone up. We brought the LGO token holders on, so there was 10% give or take more created for them, but the marketing polls are going straight back to the users of the platform. We don't give them out, we're not spending them, and we're not liquidating them to drive cash and use that elsewhere. We're giving them for the actions on the platform, which is building more utility, which is building more tiers and allowing people to get to higher tiers as well. So we think it's a value prop to do that, actually. And the staking rewards, the 7% staking rewards, is similar to all the other coins that have staking rewards that are generating new tokens. But I understand we will have the burn. That is a key component that people are looking for.
Yeah, and then just to kind of come back to that about what those value propositions are. So if we're taking a look here, the different tiers. I know you've talked about adding in a couple of tiers here, which I think is a great idea. But Adventurer is 500, Explorer 5,000, Navigator 20,000, which is pretty tough to get for a lot of people. But you got the rewards boost. So this includes USDC, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. VGX is not eligible for the boost. We'll maintain a flat rate of 7. You get crypto back rewards, which you'll receive 2x or 3x the price improvement between what's actually offered out there, because you guys are a brokerage, which will be paid out in VGX, trackable, help you climb up the tier ladder. And then you get discounts, crypto back and debit card and desktop applications when that actually comes out. So it sounds good, but again, a couple of things. That burn, not to press you on it, but I got to press you on it. That burn, yep. I know it's going to happen. You said this year. I know you can't give a specific date, but are we talking about Q2, Q3, Q1 to make this deflationary just a little?
Yeah, let me. It will most likely around summertime, because it's being worked on. That's being worked on. At the same time, we're trying to build more protocols to allow deposits withdrawals. So there's a bigger bang for the burn too. So probably around summertime.
Okay, we'll take it. And then also, let's finish up with this. One of the bigger questions I get, the VGX token swap, which happened not too long ago. I want to say, 6-7 months ago. Is that right?
September,
but anyhow,
right? August, September. I think it was open.
Yeah,
it was open for 30 days, and then we extended it another 2 weeks, so something like that. So it was, it was open for 30 to 45 days at that point.
So this has been answered many times, but we'll do it one more time. Voyager team allotted for 45 days for customers to swap their tokens. If you could open this up to the community, could you do it? Would you do it so they could swap their tokens? Apparently, some people, and it's not the majority, obviously, but a lot of people are like, hey, I missed it. So what do you got?
Yeah, look, I think we first announced the swap in December of 2020.
Right.
When we did the LGL deal, said it was happening, it would happen. The development by our partners, because we actually outsourced the development of the swap. The contract took a little longer. The security audit took longer. But we kept telling everybody, when, keeping them abreast. I think we did even releases on that. It did PR releases. It's really not, I feel for the people that missed it. I truly do. I understand that. But I think this token is community driven. So I think it's something that the community should, it's a small group that says they want to reopen it. It's a large group that says they don't want it open. And so, I think it's a community token. So I leave it there.
Sure. Yeah, I will say this, like I had to ask that question because it's getting asked a lot. I will just tell you my experience with Zero Exchange. Same exact thing happened to me. I bought Zero, pretty high point, actually at one of the peaks right around here. And it was a four figures, easy, maybe somewhere around there. And what they did is they did a token swap, so relay. And I did not pay attention to this, even though I'm in this industry. It just kind of went over my head. And then what happened, they did this for tiered amount, and 100 Zero can be swapped for one relay. Sounds familiar? Now 30 days to claim, anything unclaimed is burnt. So guess what? All those tokens that I bought are burnt. It's a lesson for me. I didn't keep my eye on it, and all that is gone. It still have it in some kind of wallet, but it doesn't really do much for me. And that is what it is. So let me make this crystal clear. So when I talked about that, what happened to me and Relay and everything else, guess what? That was on me. I didn't do it. Now I see there's some comments in here, let's take this one. Andrew says they should have airdropped new tokens to holders. Well, guess what? If you had it on Binance, and let me tell you, behind the scenes, when Steve was talking to me about this whole thing, he said Binance want to do this for 1 week only because they don't want to deal with the hassle of having to do with a token swap. He said they had to beg them to get them to do it 30, 45 days because they're like, no, 1 week. That's all we want to give these people. That's it. So like with this one, like should it be airdropped? Well, if you had it in one of those places, it should have been airdropped. If you had it in your cold storage, like I did with Relay, doesn't happen. So I'm just going to leave it like this. I messed up on Relay and I lost it was near 10 grand because I didn't pay attention. And who is that on? That is on me. I know people will say, well, I missed it because it was only 45 days. Yet you got to remember, it went all the way back to December, January, February, March. They were sending out emails, not just on social media, and not just on mine. And like, I think Relay Zero did an even worse job than that. And I'm not complaining. It just is what it is. So look, if we had to put a vote to it right now, I can't guarantee, but I have a pretty strong feeling that a lot of holders would not say, open this up. And I'm sorry that it worked out like that, but that is what it is. I have lost on Relay, on Zero. I also screwed up with my Cardano. I put it on a testnet wallet, and 20,000 Cardano are lost. It is what it is. And I've screwed up before, and it's just a lesson to me. So that's just what I want to say. Let's jump back into this interview and go from there. So
yeah, I'd like to add, Rob, I'd add one more point to it, is that there's zero benefit to Voyager in the swap side of it. Like, if more tokens are out there, great. If less, it didn't matter to us. It was just a matter of working with all our execution partners on this too, because we're not an exchange, we're a broker. If the exchanges that we send liquidity to required a shorter token swap, then we had to live by some of that too, because we have exchange partners, and that's where we send flow to. And so it's no, we could care less if all the tokens got swapped or less got swapped. It didn't matter to us. There was nothing. The 40 million pool, the 20, the 10, and the 10 were set no matter what. Like, we had nothing to gain either way. And I think people think we had something to gain, but we had nothing to gain. Zero.
Yeah. Well, so that's what we got. So let's move on. So next question I had, stocks. Because I remember we talked about not too long ago, when last time you were on, you were talking about stock integration. And I thought it was a pretty big value proposition to actually get your crypto, or you could actually take it off the platform. And also you could actually invest into stocks, which is kind of like what Robinhood does, but in a very, very limited amount. They have very few cryptos, and some I don't think you can take off. I don't use Robinhood that much at all. So how is that working out? Because I know you guys are partnering up with Market Rebellion. And when is this going to happen? I think you said September, but the next question I had was, is this a limited amount of stocks, or is it a full plethora of different stocks that people can actually get into?
Yeah, Market Rebellion's building, as part of our joint venture, they're building all the capabilities for us that we just have to hook our platform from a UI UX perspective into the APIs, which is great. Those guys are doing all the work. They're making major progress. They have a clearing firm. We're working through it, and the way we're going to do it is going to reinvent the way people trade equities on a go-forward basis, because you'll be able to sweep back to crypto and so forth. It's pretty cool what we're working on.
Yeah.
We're expecting it by the fall. and it will be all stocks non-OTC as requested by our clearing firm. And the only exception to that rule would be our own Voyager stock. If we're not to NASDAQ at that point and we're still in the OTC markets, we'll be able to have customers trade the Voyager stock.
Awesome. So would the Voyager loyalty program come into that? Like, could you actually buy stocks and then get like a price appreciation 2x, 3x, or the price discrepancy, whatever, and then actually get use things for depending on the tier that you're at for the loyalty program?
Yeah, we're going to have different things within that loyalty program, and you're right. You said it earlier. We're working on a lower tier, a higher tier, expanding the rewards. We've been contacted by numerous affiliate programs so that we can give, even higher cash back or crypto back related to purchasing on certain vendors, whether it's hotels or Amazons and so forth. We've had all these affiliate programs reach out to us and say, why don't you incorporate us into your debit program, which we will over time here. It's first is get the debit card to market and then build all those reward programs around the debit card too, which allows us to do even more cash back to people.
Sounds good. And then real quick, just as a follow-up, there was a lottery.com. There was an integration you guys were doing. And then what's going on with that? Anything? That's where you actually get, lottery tickets and things like that through Voyager. So stocks, lottery, crypto, doing it all.
Yeah, we're waiting on them to build to our APIs. We just hired Tim Mund to run our payment world, especially US side of that, and the payment sales in the US. And we need them to write to the API. We're still waiting on them doing that. I think there's a lot of activity because lottery.com just isn't lottery tickets. They also have sports betting. And so there's a lot of activity in the sports betting world. We saw New York open up. We saw Connecticut open up. So I think people's focus is a lot more as well into the sports betting world. So I think a lot of their energies have gone there. But we'll get them. We'll get that lottery ticket on at some point here soon. And maybe you could expand into the sports betting as long as we're doing the work with lottery.com.
Yeah, I used to live in Las Vegas for a couple of years, and gambling seems to be a big thing. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So then let's get into some regulation issues. Okay, this is the big story. Everything from America Competes to national security. But then, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the SEC's not shutdown, but they really spooked them on their Coinbase's yield program, and then also local government scrutiny towards one of your partners, which is Celsius. And what I'm talking about right here is that there was an article months ago, I think this is in August, September, where Coinbase did what they were supposed to do, quote unquote, is go in there and talk to the SEC. We're going to give our customers yield for the crypto that they hold. Not so fast. You do that, we'll sue you. Then they said, okay, they're going to stop it. So then Coinbase, they were spooked. So they offer crypto yield everywhere but the United States. On top of that, you've also got different states, such as my great state of Texas and New Jersey, clamping down on crypto yield products from Celsius Network. What are your thoughts on what's going on here?
Look, I think with any new asset class, any new business that regulators are learning about, and I think it's incumbent upon us, and a lot of people are spending time and money with lobbying. And down in DC, there's a lot of reports about companies spending more money in the lobbying efforts. Just trying to engage regulators, both at the SEC and in DC and in states, about crypto and the values of crypto and the blockchain. And I'm not surprised by any of this. I think that regulation is going to come. I think people will understand it more. I think thoughtful regulation. I think there's a lot of things behind the scenes being done and being discussed about how to understand how customer assets are being used for some of those yield programs. I think that's a key driver is when you look at whoever you're working with and whoever you want to put your money with. We always hope it's us, but understand how the assets are being used, because there's some places that have a lot more risk to it than other places, and I think the regulators are trying to understand that risk and what's the risk to consumer assets. And I think that's an important aspect. And I think they're actually doing the right thing and learning more. And, again, I just refer to make sure when you're putting your assets in at certain places, you know what's going on with your assets behind the scenes.
Right. And then follow-up question, how close do you guys actually work with the regulators these days? Because I'm assuming some kind of got spooked a little bit by what happened with Coinbase. How do you guys do it?
I've been in the regulated business and now unregulated in this in this part with crypto, but for 28 years now. Always had active dialogue with regulators from my time at E-Trade to my time running my own at Lightspeed Financial. It's part of the business, always having active dialogue. And I think that's the way we look at it at Voyager. We have active dialogue all the time. It's important. You build relationships that way. Brian Brooks came on board. Happy to have him as one of our members of our board of directors, who's well connected into the DC and so forth. And it's all about building relationships. And that's what we think is really important in this industry is working with regulators.
Yeah, it's nice when you have the former head of the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, working for you. Kind of gives you a little bit of a one-up when you're talking to people in Washington. I got you. And then lastly, I'll just ask you this. Here's a flashback. Remember, the first time we chatted was in 2020. And then we did this little snippet interview. And then off camera, you go, listen, man, I don't know if this is like a niche market or how things are going. I'm hoping things were kind of going slow right now. And that was like, we just come off 2019, right? 2020 was kind of getting in there. Yeah. So how do you see things right now? And then I keep hearing the same phrase, tidal wave of institutions. I know you are more focused on the retail investor. I get that. But you also have your ear to the ground with a lot of high net worth individuals. So tell us, where do you see things going? What's going on? And are these tidal waves of institutions coming in?
Look, I think there is institutional investment coming. I think we're seeing it more and more in the private markets as funds like A16Z and others start investing in private companies in the crypto and blockchain space. I still think we're early on the institutions all coming into crypto and making these investments. I think it's growing, but I clearly don't think it's growing as fast as everyone thought it would for 2022. And I think it's just coming. It's still early here that more and more people and institutions are putting money in. And I think when you talk about institutions coming into the space, I think you're seeing a couple of things. One is the investment into Bitcoin and Ethereum, but then I think there's a lot of investment going into direct investment into the protocols to help support what we know is going to be the infrastructure for the next 20 years, whether Solana wins or Cardano wins, it doesn't matter. That's the infrastructure for the next 20 years. And companies are making that investment on those protocols. So I think you're seeing it outside some of the on market, on exchange. You're seeing it outside there. Gotcha.
And then bonus question. So what have you seen with the volume over there on Voyager? Because I know like right now we talk about DCAing and we talk about this is when millionaires are made, when there is a lot of fear and the prices are going down, down, down. So how is the volume over there? Are people taking the advice? Is there a lot of people buying or really not that much?
So we're seeing, two really distinctive things. One is we're seeing more and more cash coming on the platform and people are doing a lot of the recurring buys. That's one. We're seeing a lot of recurring buys, people taking your advice and doing DCA. And we see a significant amount of that every single day, depending on which day people decide to invest. So we're seeing that and buying more and more crypto. What we're also seeing is we saw a 50% plus increase in the number of cash coming on the platform for stablecoin, for USDC over the last 6 weeks as well. Because people are sitting there getting ready to participate when they see a breakout. And I think we all expect a breakout to the top side in the near future. I think we're just sitting in a little bit of a waiting game here. But we will see that. And so we're seeing more money come in, sitting in USDC, ready to be deployed at a later date.
Gotcha. So I'm just guessing that the volume probably goes down a little bit as we start to really bottom out 50%. Then people go into dollars, they put into USDC, they gain whatever the interest is, 9, 10, 11%, I forgot. And then they just kind of sit down and go, okay, now's the time, and they start to buy it later on. Okay.
I saw this happen in the traditional financial markets in my time at E-Trade, in the fact that when people don't know where to go, sit in cash, earn some yield on that cash, and then when the markets in 2002 and 2003 started to rise again, because remember we had a big crash obviously right after 9/11,
Yeah.
and then people started deploying cash back into the markets. This is traditional cycles that happen, and crypto is no different than the traditional markets, and we'll see these cycles, and we will see all that cash get redeployed back into buying crypto when we see a breakout one way. Everything's trading in such a tight range right now.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. All right. Well, Steve, you've answered all the questions. You did it today. I appreciate you coming by. I really, truly. And then also last question, which is any words of wisdom for the average investor out there?
Yeah, I said this to you earlier. I was at the Bitcoin conference in Miami a couple of weeks ago. I was on a panel with some great other panelists, but the one thing that stuck in my head was when Maya said from A16Z. I've known Maya about 3 years now, and we always get the question, "What do you see as the biggest risk?" And someone from Phantom had one thing. I said regulatory. The uncertain regulatory is always a risk. But Maya had the smartest thing to say. She goes, "The biggest risk to investors is not participating, not getting involved, and sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing is the biggest risk you can make." And she used an example that 3 years ago she had the opportunity to invest in Voyager at 30 cents on the public markets and 6 cents in the token, and she didn't take either opportunity. And she goes, "My risk, not participating was worse than trying to figure out what the real risk was." So not participating in this market and getting involved is the risk, because we are changing everything about the way the world works over the next 20 years.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. Excellent words of wisdom there. Steve, thanks for coming by. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, let's jump back. There we go. So look, that was sometimes not the thing that you want to hear, but it is the honest answers. So that's what we have as far as the interview. And I know there's going to be some questions, so that's why I want to stick around and go over those right now. So drop your questions right now into the comments. I started some already, so let's take a look at exactly what those questions were. All right, so first one, Tavi. Tavi says, and this was about the Voyager token swap. He says, look, this guy, Steve Ehrlich, refuses to convert old VGX coins into new ones just because I'm a long-term holder. I didn't follow crypto news for 3 months. Shameful. So I will just say this. For that, to not follow, and I talked about this at length, about my Relay and Zero token where I lost close to $10,000 because I didn't follow the news. And this is one of those great things and one of those bad things, if we want to say it like that, with crypto and digital assets. They say not your keys, not your crypto. Well, you are now your own bank. And so for the things that are happening right here, like, you have to be aware of your investments. So I know James Overvest answers, he only gets into 10 positions. And I'm like, really? That's it? Ha. But in all honesty, if I would have only had 10 positions, I probably would have been able to actually monitor all these things and not get into so much. Now, there's pros and cons and everything else. But again, I will just say that if we put a vote to the community, they wouldn't reopen it. Binance only wanted to do it for a week. Steve had to fight for at least 45 days. They were announcing this since December, all the way into like 6, 7, 8, 9 months. So it is what it is. All right, next one. When will the additional coins be announced? I think Steve was just talking about in Q1, they have around 75 tokens. They're looking to add another 25. So I don't know what those are exactly, but it looks pretty good. And then Fit Fanatic said they just added Crypto.com, Wax, really? Wax? EWT, Flux, pretty good, nice. And then Voltron said this about 1,000 times. This guy's here to wreck us. I don't know who Voltron is talking about. It's talking about me or Steve, but I'd like to hear those comments about exactly why. And then this is a good comment here. This was the story that we just talked about as far as India, and they are legalizing crypto, which is a good victory. I mean, it's better than them saying we're going to ban it. And WazirX, which was the exchange over there, couldn't even operate. Now they're saying, yes, they're going to go forward, but they're going to tax you at 30%. And it's on transfers, which is kind of crazy. And Navin says this, 31% tax we Indians should pay as a tax to the Indian government, but they don't care about the losses and no concern about it. Also, they don't support if I lost my digital assets in exchanges. Exactly right. And then I also was talking about getting back to that exchange issue where people missed the swap, even though it went on for like around 7-8 months. I also missed out on Cardano or ADA. I put it into a testnet wallet, didn't transfer it over. I lost 20,000 ADA. So I've lost 20,000 ADA. I've lost almost $10,000 worth of with a zero token, and who knows how much that'll be in the future. And I've only got myself to blame for that. All right. And this was a good one. I didn't know. Geo says in Sweden, the tax is 30% after the profits. It's crazy. I have to ask CT Larson about that. That's crazy. And then Michael asked about 1,000 times, ask Steve about Theta. I don't know if that's one of the things that are coming in the pipe. It would be nice to dollar cost average Theta. I had to buy it on Uniswap, so it kind of sucks, but yeah. And then Ebertenner says the main use of Voyager is the DCA ETH. I love DCAing with Voyager. It makes it, even with Gemini, it makes it pretty simple. I was DCAing Sandbox when I was over there, and it's just great. Just set it, forget it, and it just keeps buying every day. And over time, I think, in all honesty, if you have like a 5-year plan, things will usually work out. But if you're looking to get rich tomorrow, it's not going to happen. So that's just crypto. That's just investment. Actually, that's investment fact. If you look at a 5-year plan, you're going to do a lot better than a day-to-day operation. That's what we got. So that's what we have for that. Any questions? I'll scour the comments section, but I think we went really long today. We're almost at an hour. I like this one. Abhishek says, India getting ready for mass adoption. I like that, man. I like that. They said, I don't accept why you lost your ADA. Because I put my ADA into a test wallet, and I still have it on my computer. And you were supposed to upgrade into the mainnet wallet. And if you didn't do it within a certain time, it was stuck in the testnet in whatever that segment was called. So I can't transfer it over from the testnet wallet to the new mainnet. Just gone. That's what it is. Did you get into Relay after losing your zero? No, because like I said, even I'm in this space and I just missed it because I had so many different positions. I've trimmed those positions because some of them were just ridiculous, like zeros. No, but yeah, I bought zero on. We had even talked about on my channel. I thought it was going to do pretty well because it was reducing fees and blah blah blah. But I didn't follow up with it because that's the big thing. If you're following these projects, you have to understand that some start off good, just like every business that's out there. But unless you do this is why I'm a fan of Voyager, because I asked you specifically, like, what are you doing to get to be able to actually take these cryptos off the exchanges? Because you can't just say you're going to do it and not do it. He's like, well, we hired 100 different developers, blockchain related. I'm like, oh, that would probably do it. So you have something like that. You have good marketing. You put more money in the team. Things usually tend to work out. I think in this situation, project can start off flashy and great, just like every business that's out there, but it's the longevity. There's a reason why well over 60% of small businesses fail within 5 years. And that's just the US statistic. I don't know what it is globally. It's because they can't scale and they can't grow. All right. Is Voyager sending our time for taxes? They sent me mine, so you should get yours. Also, if you're looking for to do your taxes, there's a link in the description. I use cryptotrader.tax. You get 20% off. And they now have a direct API integration into Voyager. So you don't have to actually send the information. It's all right there. Big E, what do you say? When you invest, it's all risky. We all lose from time to time. Still have not heard anyone not losing it anymore. That's true. I'd love to hear the people who haven't lost yet. All right. NASDAQ, I don't know if that's a question. Maybe the question was about stock trading for Voyager. So Voyager coming in September, roughly, you're going to be able to buy a ton of crypto and a ton of different stocks on the Voyager app. So think of like Robinhood, but just way better. It's because in Robinhood, you can only buy a couple of different cryptos, but you can buy a ton of different stocks. But on Voyager, it's pretty much everything. Except you can't, Steve did say you're not going to be able to buy the Voyager stock on the Voyager app. So, and then this is interesting. Dong Sheng says crypto should be taxed 8%. I don't know if anybody would agree with you there. Not for me, that's right. This is a good point. The market says, why has Gary Gensler become a puppet for the government? I watched his MIT course. He looked like a nice guy that understood the potential of crypto. Hey, even I was fooled, man. I did a video about Gensler, and I thought he was going to be great because he knew crypto. He had taught specifically blockchain technology, and he referenced Ripple and XRP numerous times in his lectures at MIT. And I was like, this guy knows it. And now he's like, everything's a security, and I'm going to shut everything down. I don't know what happened. That's what it is. Nick says bullish on Voyager. Well, didn't hit my $30 price prediction, which I thought, because I was a little bit too exuberant, I must admit. But I did bring to the forth the ability for you guys to understand that Voyager at 29 cents, when I first said, hey, I think it's going to 30 bucks. It went to 7, which wasn't good, but which was pretty good, but didn't hit that 30. Now it's, I think, like under $2. So yeah, it's a lesson for good old Rob to not make crazy price predictions. All right. But I mean, if you bought 29 cents or even $1, still doing pretty good. Happy Chinese New Year. Yeah, sure. I don't know about that. So, Alchemist says that Gary Gensler is protecting his Goldman Sachs employees. I don't know. I don't think he really cares about them. But who knows? I mean, when I worked in healthcare, especially home health, like when I would go to different places, I would always give preference to the people I used to know and work with. So it is just the way to do. And the last question today, Rob, how are you doing? Doing great. Got to do a lot of things, so I'm going to take off. This is almost an hour, and there's a lot of stuff. I will put in timestamps later, actually right now. But that's it for today. So look, thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing. All things to talk about are time sensitive. And that's it for today. So thanks so much. I appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Adios.